Hi, everybody. Welcome to our new episode. I wanted to let you know that we are sponsored by the Institute of Metaphysical Science at scientificmetaphysics.org. So go check us out there. This episode is called "When I Look in the Mirror Is What I See Me." And it's prompted by a request that we got by a listener who wanted to know, how can I really see the real me? So we thought that this would be a fun inquiry, a fun exploration of just that question. So hi, Betty. How are you today?
Fine, thanks.
Excellent. All right. So say a little bit more about that. When I look in the mirror, is it me that I see?
What you see and what we all see and call, like what I see and call Betty, what you see and call Kim, is your best perception, your concept of what's present. And what's present is perfect. It's being itself, being you. Actually, man is the action of the God idea.
Mm-hmm.
So mind in action, soul in action, life in action, truth in action, love in action, etc. That is who you are.
Mm-hmm.
We limit ourselves because we are surrounded by and bombarded by the evidence that the thing I see in the mirror is all there is to me.
Right.
So I have no real feel for the enormous presence that has Betty show up.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no idea what is all present when Kim shows up.
Right.
And so on. So when we're talking about the real me, we're talking about source.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about what is it that has this thing called Betty occur.
Right. And living is that exploration and that continuous self-discovering when we're open to it from cradle to grave.
Yeah. And while it sounds like an intellectual discussion, when we get into the scientific metaphysics approach,
Mm-hmm.
and we begin to see that the reflective presence of the God idea constitutes this thing that's calling itself Betty, then we begin to get some dimension of freedom from the belief about all the things people would say about Betty.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of that is necessarily the way it is. It's just their view, my view, your view, the language that we understand. What's actually present is perfection.
Yeah.
Whole, complete, joyous, free, all of that.
Looking just the way it looks.
Right
no
there.
No matter what our judgment is of it.
Right. Looking just like this.
Yeah.
And to the degree that that is your awareness, your self-awareness is your freedom and your experience of freedom.
Right. So when you can go in search of who you really are, go in search of your true self. And I'm reminded of a statement that I heard growing up, which was, well, you can head east and you can head more east, and there's always more east to go. And to get as far east as you can go, all you have to do is turn around.
Then you can go west.
That's right. But then you're literally as far east as you could ever go. Is just turn around. And I think that we think there's somewhere to go, somewhere to get to, a better situation in our circumstances, have the picture match our judgment of what that would look like if things were just perfect. And the truth is it's all perfection right now.
Yeah.
And there isn't anywhere to go. There's only everything to be and be conscious about.
Yeah.
Or not even about. But to be conscious. Consciously aware, I suppose, is the way I should say that.
Yeah.
So we've got some interesting quotes, and you pulled some, I see, from Personal Concept, and that's gonna preface it with PC from all the other quotes from Personal Concept, but that's a booklet by Margaret Laird, available on the IMS website. But at any rate, so what she says is life lives, and its living is an evidence as consciousness.
Yep.
So I think that says a lot of what you have already said, but
Yep.
just reiterate a little bit.
Well, go ahead to the next one, because the next one is really, we've already covered the first one.
Awareness is existence or being.
Yeah, awareness is your existence. You think it's physical. You think you eat to support your life. No, that's your language. That's the best perception you've got.
Mm-hmm.
But your awareness of what's actually present is what gives you being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that because I like particularly underscore, because what I heard fresh was we think existence is physical. The table, the chair, the trees, the walkway, the garden, here, this is existence. And what you're saying is existence is awareness.
Yep.
Now, think about that. Existence is awareness. That means it doesn't have a physical form. Existence isn't physical. If existence is awareness, there's no physical form. So then that begs the question, well, what's the physical form? And then you could look at it like, well, the physical form is the reflection of God being, seen only the way you can see it.
No.
Okay. So say what's that then?
No, the physical form is your perception of yourself. The only thing actually present, actually real, is divine being.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see it just tells me I better improve my seeing, better work on that stuff. But actually, perfection present, functioning fully, is what has this thing called Betty show up at all.
Yeah.
Without that, there would be no Betty.
Yeah.
So the thing that's so tricky in getting a view of who you are is this thing that says there is no life, truth, intelligence, nor substance in the physical view. All is infinite mind, the God idea, infinitely manifest. And you call it Betty. And you say, oh, this is the way it looks. The trees and the house and the people.
Right.
Whereas that is a perception that has no existence outside of your view.
Okay.
Everyone having a view thinks that they share a common view. Not true.
Right. And then we can't believe when someone has a different view. Like, what are they, nuts? Right?
Depends on what are you talking about, politics or something?
I can name several things, not to bring politics into this.
All right.
Anyways, okay. So on to another quote from Personal Concept. Oh, I'm stuttering at the beginning. The living of life is what you are.
Yeah, the action. See, life is a synonym for God as far as metaphysical science is concerned. The God idea is life, functioning. And so this is the living of life is what you are. It's not something you do.
Right.
So you can turn that a little bit for yourself. It's not up to you to live life. Life's living you.
Right. Now we have a comment by Kate who says, it doesn't exist outside of your view. What doesn't exist outside of your view?
Perception.
Right. Perception doesn't exist outside of your view.
My perception
life exists. Say that again.
My perception doesn't exist for anyone but me.
Right.
And it's not an out there thing. It's a point of view I've got that I hang on to and call it Betty, but it doesn't exist for anyone else. The way
Right.
I see it is just a point of view that I have, and it expands and contracts and changes and shifts and so on as I grow in my self-recognition.
Right.
Yeah.
And she did come back and say it is that is perception, the it in that statement right there. So perception doesn't exist outside of your view.
Outside of the perceiver.
Right. And then she went on to say, we are the world we walk through.
Yep. The only world you've got.
Right.
And you've got all of it, even though you probably deny 98% of it.
Yeah. Deny 98% of it. Say more about that.
Well, I look around and I see things I think, oh my gosh, isn't that awful? That's a not I, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. It could be like, that's an awful part of me.
You got that right.
Which is what I think when I think about my weight.
And it may not be awful at all. It just may be
right.
a point of view.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Then on personal concept goes on to say the idea creates the language or concept for its identity.
Yeah.
So the idea creates it all.
That's right. And the idea, reflectively, is the presence I call Betty.
Mm-hmm. Now there's that word. There's that word reflectively.
Yeah.
So the idea reflectively is that word I call Betty. So say more about reflectively, because I used it incorrectly above. I've heard it, so now I want to understand that better.
Well, you know, in the beginning of the personal concept, Mrs. Laird has a definition of terms.
Uh-huh.
And she defines the idea as the actual or the real, the being. And she defines concept as an opinion or a belief about being or reality. It's an interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is being itself being. The concept is my best view of that being me.
Okay.
So the one that asked me the question about how do I see my true self, I think it's a vision that grows with you as you begin to identify who you are. And we don't really identify who we are until we give up on the picture that we've got of ourselves and start looking at the qualities that constitute our being.
Mm-hmm.
And they're quite unique for each one.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time we pay no attention to them. You know, it's okay, keep going, because some of these other quotes will say some of those things too.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want a spoiler alert in here. All right, here we go. So under mind is the athlete on page 23, you say, scientific fact-finding within a non-visible realm provides new eyes for discovering the self.
Yep. So fact-finding for me occurs when I stop to consider what it is that constitutes having Betty around. And when I can let go of this picture of Betty and say, well, wait a minute, being is action, it's truth, evident, it's principle, the right idea, functioning, it's love, which is an awareness that only perfection is present.
Mm-hmm.
It's life, which is action again, movement. It's soul, which is all the senses. You know, we think we see, feel, hear, taste, touch, but we have seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, because the soul presence constitutes that whole sensorium perception. I wouldn't have all these things going on in my concept of myself if it were not present, because this is my view of all of that that's present.
Mm-hmm.
It exists perfectly. I may see it as limited. You know, I can't sing opera. Who says? I said it. Take care of that. Stop that stuff. There isn't I can't, I won't, I don't, that's all stuff we add. What's present is perfection in every direction,
Mm-hmm.
in every situation.
Yeah.
What's present is always the intelligence to know what to do, the fact of you supporting your well-being. You know, Margaret used to say, well, I'm happy whether I know it or not. And I said, what good does it do you if you don't know it? She says, a lot of good, because it's always present. At some point, I'm going to discover it.
Hopefully. One can hope. One can hope. All right. And then again, you say in Mind as the Athlete on page 42, the fiction that you are a carpenter, executive, or salesman is held as if it were cast in concrete, inflexible, and unmovable. Again, a typo in there, just FYI. So the fiction that you are a carpenter, executive, or salesman is held as if it were cast in concrete, inflexible, and unmovable. The fact that who you are as being has never been limited in any direction is completely overlooked.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's this thought and this concept that when you're a kid, the world's your oyster. You could be anything you want. But as soon as you make your first choice, you narrow in. Then you make another choice and it narrows even more. And you make another choice. And then pretty soon, there you are. You're a lawyer, not just any lawyer, but a divorce lawyer, you know, et cetera, right? Like, I don't know why that pulled up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, but really and truly, the fact is that who you are as being has never been limited in any direction.
Yeah. You know, there was a writer, a physicist, actually, I guess an astrophysicist. I think it's Hoyt. Margaret quotes quite a bit. And he said there's no reason that we all can't be a Rachmaninoff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just our perception.
Right. Well,
it's just a degree to which I've blinded myself to what is present when I show up.
But I mean, one of my thoughts on this whole thing is, well, that's if I think this thing has to deliver the Rachmaninoff. But in my world, I have Rachmaninoff.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if I am the world I walk through, I've got that. That is my world. That is my being showing up in the only way I can see it.
That's right.
All those things. And that's like the whole behold my beautiful body. That's that whole statement.
Yeah. And if you saw it clearly, the Rachmaninoff would be one with you. It would not be something
with this thing.
It would be an experience present as Rachmaninoff.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll have to work with that. And I do include a lot in my world, and that's why your world shifts as you go along.
Uh-huh.
And you find yourself with greater freedom here and there, a bit here and a bit there, and on you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So for everybody listening, just know it's experience of being Rachmaninoff. It's the experience of being all of that. So there's your challenge. Just boom, like the gauntlet, put right down there.
I can have the experience of somebody having plenty to eat. And then I can have the experience of eating plenty. It's all one thing going on.
Right.
Me discovering myself in ever enriched, all-inclusive perception.
Yeah. Yeah, I could get that. All right. And in Mind as the Athlete, on page 43, we have your divinity shapes your humanity at all times.
Yeah. You know, Shakespeare said there's a divinity that shapes our ends, rough hew them how we will. And, sometimes when you're going along in your daily stuff, you're giving yourself a rough time, but it's still divinity there, present anytime you want to wake up.
And shaping your humanity.
That's right.
In the best way you can see it. So it's all discovering.
Yep.
All discovering.
Yep.
All right. And then on page 51 of Mind is the Athlete, you go on and you say, in a nutshell, each one is fundamentally the observer operator in a world of his or her own design.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a statement of self-responsibility.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I would say that absolutely. And we may or may not want to own it at the moment.
You may or may not perceive it.
Right.
As a fact of being.
But it still is.
But it is, and it's present.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. It's like joy. You're happy whether you like it or not. This is true whether you like it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And because it's true, your effort to deny it or not pay attention to it or go off on some tangent is the reason you have what comes up in your life as a problem.
Yeah.
It's like the torpedo thing that keeps it on track. What do you call that? I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, anytime that you venture too far off the track, whoops, there's a problem. And in the effort to resolve the problem, you are discovering a value that you had lost sight of or hadn't yet seen. And when you discover it, whew, things are all right again, and on you go.
Right. Right. Okay. And on Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy on 258, she said, man is more than a material form with a mind inside. And this gets at when I look in the mirror is what I see me. Well, who you are is more than a material form of the mind inside.
Yeah, it's more than that thing you're seeing in the mirror, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what is the more?
What is the more?
Mm-hmm.
Divinity, consciousness, God idea.
Consciousness is fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
Everything exists as consciousness. Yeah. Nothing exists outside of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And on 258:13, she says in Science and Health, God expresses in man the infinite idea.
Yeah. Think of that word infinite.
Mm-hmm.
No duplication, no beginning, no end, never the same 1 second to the next. So it's an evolving or an evolutionary experience of self-being.
Right.
And that's what we all have going on all the time. Right.
So even though some of us have this, when we get up, we go to bed, we wake up the next day only to repeat, and life kind of seems the same. So even though you might have an experience that's similar to Groundhog Day, the truth is that it's infinitely new. And you just haven't opened your eyes to see that. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that. Say anything you want.
I know, but is it on the idea? Does it hit the mark? Or?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing is that saying it doesn't mean anything.
Right. Living it is
the awareness. It's the awareness of what you're saying.
Right.
It's the difference.
Yeah.
So, if you're chatting off words or reading words from a book, doesn't do much for you. But when you are aware, when you could write that sentence in your own words,
mm-hmm.
then it's a fact for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So she goes on in Science and Health. She says, science reveals the possibility of achieving all good.
Yeah.
That a bit.
We think we can do something wrong. We think somebody else can do something bad and wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody's on his path to himself, regardless of our opinion about what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think that. But science reveals the possibility that what's going on is good. And that's out of all is infinite mind, infinite God idea manifest.
Yep.
So what else is there?
Right. Right. Very good. And then she says on 261 in Science and Health, fixing your gaze on the realities supernatural.
No, supernal.
Oh, supernatural, supernal. Okay, let me back up here and do it again. Fixing your gaze on the realities supernal, you will rise to the spiritual consciousness of being. Now, define supernal.
I didn't look it up. I don't. It just. I don't really know. I think it has.
Okay, then.
I think it has to do with very supreme. It
Yeah.
has to do with exceedingly supreme.
Okay.
The thing about that I've said this many times before, but you remember when you discussed devotion of thought?
Yeah.
Devotion of thought to an honest achievement makes the achievement possible.
Sure.
Well, fixing your gaze on reality. Now that's devotion of thought.
Mm-hmm.
You will rise to the spiritual consciousness of being. Yes, you will begin to see yourself as who you are rather than what you look like.
Yeah.
And it's seeing who you are that is the whole experience present of perfect, whole, complete, joyous, free, unlimited, all of that.
Right.
So when you can begin to devote your thought, fix your gaze on reality, on what's actually true, then the pictures, the language in which you understand yourself, the pictures, who you think you are, the Betty thing, shapes up and does just fine.
Yeah.
Fussing with the Betty thing is very crippling. Leave it alone. Fix your thought, your gaze on what's actually true, and it will take care of that thing called Betty.
Yes. Now, for all of you who are curious about what supernal means, we have somebody who looked it up. So Kate looked it up and says supernal is relating to the sky or the heavens, celestial, of exceptional quality or extent. He is the supernal poet of our age. So there you go. Thank you very much for that, Pabst. All right. And so in the end, all of this that we've just said, I think this is a good one to also say, shared by Kate, be curious, every moment new. Harkens back to our episode on curiosity.
Love it. Thank you.
So with that, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much. And we will be here on the same bat channel, same bat time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central. And we are sponsored by the Institute of Metaphysical Science. Go out to our site. You can get the Personal Concept Pamphlet by Margaret Laird. You can see what there is to participate in and expand and look at all this stuff. You can get Mind is the Athlete by Betty Albee. But at any rate, that supports what we're up to.
We have one more thing I'd like to say. Ann Johnstone is leading a group in a new teleconference called Windows of Self-Perception. Fits this evening very well. So I had to mention it.
Right. So Windows of Self-Perception, that's a teleconference.
April the 10th. And it's a Saturday, and it's a Saturday morning. Start 10 to 11:30. It's going to be an hour and a half and only 3 sessions. It'll be super.
Okay, very good. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Go out to our website. You can sign up for that there. Anyways, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next week. Until then, be curious. Look beyond what you see in the mirror. All right.
Thanks.